1% of last year. You can see where we are in a buyer's market here. Just below where we were in 2022 for 4 weeks then, slightly below where we were in 2010, which was about 7 or 8 months there. And then also I want to point out that this 2006 through 2009 era, right in here, this was all not one big buyer market, but actually 2 buyer markets back to back. So I want to highlight this buyer's market, this buyer's market, and this buyer's market, and show you that these all were between 2 to 5%, 2 to 11%, 2 to 8%. So in a regular everyday buyer's market, you're not going to see a 20% correction in price. This is the exception, not the rule. All right. This happened right here, right around 2007 when the subprime mortgage industry collapsed. And so unless we are expecting a mortgage industry collapse, which nobody is, then I don't expect to see this 2008 again. But again, 2 to 5%, 2 to 8%, 2 to 11%, which is a different market in 2010, of course. But even with this 13% correction that happened from June to December before we bounced, we never got more than 8% year over year decline. So here we are in this little buyer's market, now knowing where we should be on that long-term line. I think Redfin's not that far off, 1 to 2% perhaps. I don't see anything more than 3. And again, if those mortgage rates should change over the summer, then all bets are off. Everything will change. So coming in, hold on a second. There we go. Make sure I stay on time here. We only have now 7 cities left in seller markets, and we're looking at Avondale, Chandler, Fountain Hills as the large ones. Chandler is just given up at this point. They're moving closer and closer to balance. And so as we've stated before, if you're in the outskirts of town like Maricopa, Queen Creek, Buckeye, you are the first to go into a buyer's market and the last to come out. If you are a interior city, established city like a Glendale, Phoenix, Gilbert, Scottsdale, Mesa, Tempe, you are the last to go into a balanced market or a buyer's market, and you are the first to come out. And the reason for that is when the interior cities start to crack. Okay, I'm going to pick on Scottsdale, okay? Everybody wants to live in Scottsdale. Not everybody, but a lot of people love to live in Scottsdale. If you buy, this is a conversation I had with somebody recently. If you're looking in Scottsdale and Scottsdale's still high because there's still seller's market, they're still doing pretty well, they're maintaining their prices. And then so you decide you're going to go over to say, I don't know, Peoria. And that's where you buy, right? And then Scottsdale prices start to drop. And you're like, dang it, I could have lived in Scottsdale. That's how buyers are. So what happens if Scottsdale starts to see prices decline in those affordable ranges, then the buyers will ditch the outskirts to go interior every time. If they see prices softening in Phoenix, they're going to pick Phoenix over the city of Maricopa every time. And that's why you see these interior cities are the first to come out of these markets if you start to see prices soften or rates come down. So, yes, you can, Catherine. So again, not a whole lot of recovery happening in the Cromford market indexes. So I'd say this is still a big caution flag for those people who are short-term holds like flips or even short-term rentals. This is a bit of a risk. So you really need to know what you're doing. But most of the flip investors now do really know what they're doing. There are very few flips that happen within a 6-month period in this stage. So they have to be very, very careful about what offers they put in and accept, what properties they accept as well. So there you go. 7 cities in seller markets, 9 in balance, 13 in buyer's markets. So with most of your cities now in balance or buyer's markets, Greater Phoenix is definitely buyer market territory. All right, so let's breeze through these and then we'll get into some of, maybe we'll have some time for a demo here or there. Oh shoot, I forgot to update this. This was recorded 2 weeks ago. We had their biggest sale ever. So you can still be in a buyer's market and get a $30 million sale. So congratulations to Paradise Valley. That's the second largest sale at 30 million, 32 million. I don't have the exact number, but 32 million is the highest sale ever also in Paradise Valley. I think last October, maybe September, I think was the biggest sale ever. But there you go. But overall, our median sale prices are up just 0.9%. Like I said, it's flat to negative. And so I say that because when we go by price range, you'll see what I mean. So overall, the median has hung tight between here and last year, just up just under 1%. Also, the dollar per square foot is up just 1.9%. So after dropping down, which is not unusual, by the way, for our averages in the summertime to drop down a little bit. When the luxury market pulls back, you will see more volatility in the average dollar per square foot. Yes, Jennifer, I think to 32 million. I don't know the exact number. I don't think it was a flat 32 million. It was 32 million and change. But overall, very, very flat from 299.48 to 301.58. That's not much. But here's the deal. When you look at it by price range, that's why we say it's kind of complicated. May over May, what we saw was just about all of your price ranges under 500,000 did decline. 6 to 8 was weak as well, 1.5 to 2. But all of these are not a color because they're all within 1% of last year. I would call them more. Thank you. See, now you see Debbie. Why I can't remember that. That's a lot of numbers. She's like, I remember it by heart. But like I said here, we're up 0.9%, but there's literally only two price ranges, 800,000 to 1.5 million, that are actually more than last year. So most of our price ranges are declining. Don't be sad about that though, because when prices are declining, that actually does spur demand. So without our mortgage rates coming down, something's going to give. Incomes have come up, prices coming down. That should help us out a little bit in keeping that demand going. So I wouldn't be too sad about it, but 1 to 2% is okay. We're not looking at 20% right now. When you look at this line, I don't want you to get, again, just try not to get depressed. Remember, we went through that period in April where we had 3 full weeks of very low contract activity after those tariff announcements. And so if you don't have a contract, you can't have a sale in the month of May, right? So that's why we're seeing lower for almost all of our price ranges except over $3 million. We actually had a really good month for over $3 million in May. So maybe they were in trim, I don't know. So overall, like I said, we're going to see how our next month works out now that some of that shock and awe from those announcements and that insecurity and all of those feelings kind of start to rectify themselves. And looking at April, month over month, what we saw was the market share for 500 to 600 and up to 800 to a million, they gained a little bit of market share over the under 5. So you can see that both that mid-range actually did a lot better in terms of market share, maybe not sales, but market share was in that mid-range a little bit more. So again, that's probably what kept our prices from, suffering too much. Oh, one last thing I wanted to show about that is our sales rate. So it's number of sales were down 6.4% from last May to this May. But I also want to point out that from April to May, April had 22 working days, May had 21 days. So we had 315 closings per day in April, 317 closings per day in May. So we actually bumped it up a little bit. So there's your good news of the day.